a book review.
Hey everybody, what's up? I just want to go over this hazmat, the hazmat pre-tests real quick so that everybody can be more familiar when they go to take their actual test. They're pretty simple, but we're just going to go over them real quick, and then I'm going to do each one in segments and put timestamps so you'll be able to go through each practice test. So we'll start with practice test number 1, and you can see here. How many different hazard classes are there? Well, there are 9. Easy. What placard must be used with an inhalation hazard? Inhalation. Go figure. A truck carrying explosives has crashed into another vehicle. You should not pull them apart until the answer is the explosives have been placed at least 200 feet away from the vehicle and occupied buildings. The shippers package hazardous materials. They must certify that this was done according to regulations. The only exception is when the shipper is a private carrier carrying his or her own product. Which signals may be used to warn of a stopped vehicle that contains explosives? So that's going to be reflective triangles. Class 8 placarded as any corrosive 1,001 pounds. Class 8 is corrosives. The transport index of a radioactive material tells the degree of control needed during transportation. A properly prepared uniform hazardous waste manifest must be signed and carried by anyone transporting hazardous waste. An A or W, the first column of the hazardous material table, means the material is only restricted when shipped by air or water. When is it necessary to ground the trailer? When filling or unloading any flammable liquid tank liquid tank ground must be maintained until filling hole is properly closed. The total transport index of all radioactive materials packages in a single vehicle must not exceed 50. Which of the following must drivers have in their possession while transporting class 1.1 or 1.3 explosives? It's not both. A lot of people think it's both, but the only thing you need is the written route plan. On a public roadway with a placard tanker hauling flammable liquids, when can you transfer from one tanker to another? In an emergency. If in a materials class, the word forbidden, what kinds of material are you still allowed to haul? The answer is you cannot haul forbidden cargo, which is kind of like nothing, but the answer is you cannot haul forbidden cargo. What is the shape and size of a placard? 10 3/4, square, diamond. When hauling packages or explosives, you must never use hooks or metal tools. Which of the following, if required, must the shipper put on a package? The name and address, the hazardous material, the required label. All the answers. Whenever your vehicle is placarded, do not drive near open fires unless you can safely pass fires without stopping. A hazard class name or ID number may not be used to describe a non-hazardous material. Column 1 or the 1 means international transportation. What action should you take if you discover your hazardous material shipment is leaking at a rest stop and there's no phone available? You send someone for help with all the necessary information. In what location must you keep your shipping papers that describe any hazardous material? On the driver's seat whenever you are out of the vehicle. You must never smoke or perform any activity involving fire within 25 feet of classes 1, 2, 3, or 4. What is the purpose of a driver placarding their vehicle? To communicate risk. If you are already carrying 100 pounds of silver cyanide, what precautions must you take if you are given papers at a dock to carry 100 cartons of battery acid? Inform someone and do not take the battery acid. The other two places where the hazardous material identification numbers must appear: on all bulk packaging and the cargo tanks. When there is hazardous materials emergency, what should you do? Prevent people from smoking, keep people away. Do both of the above. Whose signature must be on a hazardous waste manifest? The shippers, all carriers, and the receiver. To obtain a hazardous materials endorsement, you must know how to placard your vehicle. A shipping paper for hazardous material must include a proper shipping description for each hazardous material, a shipper's certification, and stating that they prepared the shipment according to regulation, and the page numbers. So both of the above. 100%. Congratulations. Easy peasy. So that's test 1. I'm going to break this up into 4 parts. And so let's get right on to number 2. The driver must also carry on his person a dated certificate signed by the employer. This certificate must be updated every 3 years. If an X or an RQ in the HM column of the shipping paper entry, the shipment is regulated by hazardous material regulations. When there is a hazardous material emergency, you should keep people away, warn them of danger, prevent smoking. All answers are correct. The placard is shaped diamond. Which of the following choice is a hazard class you are not allowed to smoke around? Explosive, oxidizers, flammables, all of them. All of their correct answers. Which of the following is one of the 3 keys to identify which placard to use? Material hazard class, amount being shipped. Both of those are correct. It's kind of misleading there which one of these 3, but it's technically both of them. If there is an RQ before or after the item description on the shipping paper, it means the carrier must report any spill. Symbol column, the letter G stands for. Identifies the proper shipping name for which one of the technical names, the hazardous materials, must be entered in parentheses. Sorry, apologize for my dog barking. My wife just got home, but we're going to just continue on. Drivers of placarded vehicles transporting hazardous materials must stop 15 to 50 feet from the nearest railroad. Carriers must give each driver who transports class 1.1 and 1.3 explosives a copy of FMCSR 397. Animals and human foodstuffs should not be loaded in the same vehicle with poisons. A safe haven is one place you can leave a vehicle unattended that is hauling explosives. What is the best description of a safe haven? A property that has been government approved for this use. Who is responsible for finding out What permits special routes you need to haul hazardous material? The driver. You do not have a hazardous material endorsement on your commercial driver's license. When can you legally haul hazardous materials? Never. Nitric acid cannot be loaded above any other commodities. When shippers package the material, they are trying to make it easy to identify. To determine if you need to use placards, which of the following is not something you need to know? Not something you need to know. And that is the manufacturing date of the material. Which of the following is not an acceptable type of marking for hazardous materials? Name in italics. Which one of the following 3 hazard classes should not be placed into a temperature-controlled trailer, one with a heater or air condition? That is classes 1, 2.1, and 3. What are the major differences between cargo tanks and portable tanks? All of the above are the major differences. The hazardous material has 8 columns. To communicate the risk of hazardous materials, shippers do all of the following except have the driver text their location. A hazardous material identification number is determined by the shipper. You have loaded hazardous materials in a cargo truck. What must you do before you move the vehicle? Close all manholes and valves. Be sure they are free of leaks. You have a vehicle without racks to hold cylinders or compressed gas. You may load such cylinders only if they are loaded upright or lying flat and braced. When transporting chlorine in cargo tanks, what must you have? An emergency kit for controlling leaks and an approved gas mask, both of the above. When can the shipper name or hazardous material identification number be abbreviated on the shipping paper? Only if regulations specifically authorize the shipper to do it. Your engine runs a pump when you are delivering compressed gas. After finishing the delivery, when should you turn off the engine? Turn it off before unhooking the hoses. Which of the following materials are acceptable floor liners for transporting Division 1.1 and 1.2 materials? Non-ferrous metal. What are the 2 main places that hazardous material identification numbers appear? On the shipping papers and on the packages. 100%, congratulations, you did it again. So, without delay, let's just jump on to test 3. You can't haul 1.1 explosives with radioactive material. When fueling a placarded vehicle, someone must always be at the nozzle controlling fuel flow. What is Chemtrek's primary job? To coordinate and advise companies on spills. They also link up proper authorities with those companies. How many identical placards is a vehicle hauling hazardous materials required to display and wear? 4. 1 on the front, 1 on the back, 1 on each side of the vehicle. With most hazardous material, you may park within 5 feet of the road briefly, if your work requires it. The materials that are the exception do not allow parking this close to the road are explosives 1.1 and 1.3. Who is responsible for checking to be sure the shipper correctly named, labeled, and marked a hazardous material shipment? You have to be careful because it's not the driver, which seems right. It's the carrier. There are 3 lists that drivers, shippers, and carriers use to find out if a material is regulated as hazardous. Which one of these choices is not one of those 3 lists? The EPA dangerous material list. Who is responsible for safely transporting a hazardous material shipment without delay and keeping the shipping papers in the right place? The driver. When there is a spill of an RQ substance, the carrier has how many days to report the spill? 30 days. You are going to be hauling hazardous material over a route you do not know well. When should you check the route and get the permits needed for the trip? Before starting the trip. A placard is required for a combustible liquid at more than 119 gallons. Column 1 on the symbol column, the D stands for domestic transportation. What is a technical name? The name of a hazardous material used in scientific journals, text, recognized as the chemical of biological and microbiological name. Which one of the following hazard classes uses a transport index to determine how much of it can be loaded on a single vehicle? Radioactive materials, class 7. Which of the following are necessary qualifications for non-bulk packaging? This is all of these. All of these. Why does the government regulate the transportation of hazardous material? Because while being transported, they pose a risk to health, property, and safety. A properly prepared uniform hazardous waste manifest must be signed by each carrier transporting the shipment. Identification numbers are presented by the letters UN or NA. The letters NA are associated with proper shipping names that are used where? Within the United States and to and from Canada. You may not park a vehicle carrying hazardous material within 300 feet of an open fire. What type of fire extinguisher is required in the power unit of a placarded vehicle? A UL rating of 10 BC or above. To find out if a shipment includes hazardous material, you should look at the shipping papers. Cylinders containing compressed gas may only be loaded onto a vehicle without a flat floor or platform if the cylinders are loaded in an upright, loaded into racks, in boxes. All the answers are correct. You are hauling hazardous material and you find out one of your tires is leaking. You must stop at the nearest safe place and fix it. Shipping papers must always be kept in one place when driving with hazardous materials. Where when you are wearing your seat belt. In a pouch on the driver's door, within reach always. So both of those are correct. You have loaded a hazardous material in a cargo tank. What must you do before you move the vehicle? Close all manholes and valves and be sure you're free of leaks. The hazardous material identification numbers must be displayed on portable tanks, cargo tanks, and other bulk packaging. The regulation requires black 100 millimeter numbers. The Emergency Response Guidebook contains index of hazardous, was created by the Department of Transportation, is studied emergency. The answer is all of the above. You should stop before crossing a railroad grade if your vehicle is carrying any amount of chlorine. You're in an incident involving hazardous material. You should keep people far away and upwind of the accident. It is recommended that when hauling a load of 1.1 or 1.3 to use fuses instead of warning triangles in an emergency breakdown situation. That is false. False. Calculate score. 100%. Again, you're fabulous. Let's just get number 4 out of the way. Who is responsible for packaging, labeling, and preparing the hazardous material shipping papers for a common carrier? That's the shipper. Class 1.1 explosives must not be transported in a combination vehicle if the vehicle includes a placarded cargo tank. A vehicle contains 500 pounds of explosives 1.1 and 1.3. You must use explosive 1.1 placards. A railroad crossing is ahead of you and you are hauling hazardous materials. When you stop for the crossing, you can stop as far away as 50 feet from the nearest rail. The hazardous waste manifest should be tabbed differently and kept on top of all paperwork. The column 1, or the column with a plus sign, means the proper shipping name without regard whether the material meets the definition of the class. How often should you check your tires on a placarded trailer that has dual tires? At the start of each trip and every time you stop. Whenever you load or unload a cargo tank, a qualified person must be within 25 feet. Containment rules specify how to package, load, transport, and unload hazardous material. Smoking must be at least 25 feet from hazardous material. In the hazardous materials table, column 3, any shipping name written in italics means it isn't the proper shipping name. Those in Roman types above it are. If hazardous material is spilling from your vehicle, do not move your vehicle any more than safely required. How often must a driver that has hazmat endorsement on their CDL retake the state hazmat written test? Every 5 years. And with this video, you're going to pass it every single time. Do you need to stop before a railroad crossing if you are hauling 100 pounds of Division 4.3 materials? Yes. That's just there to fool you. Yes, you need to stop. You are transporting hazardous materials. When you are not behind the wheel, the shipping papers must be on the driver's seat or in the pouch on the driver's door. Which of the following is the proper definition of a cargo tank? A bulk container permanently attached to the vehicle. A truck has hazardous material. When can it be moved without the placards on the vehicle? To protect life and property. The basic description of a hazardous material includes the hazard class, the ID number, the proper shipping name, which one must appear on the shipping paper, the proper shipping name. A explosive contains 500 pounds of Division 1.1 explosives and Division 1.2 explosives. You must have explosive placards. When hauling hazardous materials, you must check any dual tires, again, at the start of each trip and every time you stop. Which of these three hazard classes should not be loaded into a trailer that has a heated or air-conditioned unit? Explosives, flammable liquids, flammable, all of the above. All are the correct answers. The intent of hazardous materials regulation is to ensure safety, to contain the material, and to communicate risk. If you are driving a Division 1.2 or 1.3 materials, how far must you park away from a traveled portion of the roadway? At least 5 feet. Why must the shipper sign the shipping papers? To certify that it has been prepared, to certify that it has prepared the shipment in accordance with regulations. You find an overheated tire during an en route inspection. If you are hauling hazardous materials, you must remove the tire and place it a safe distance from the vehicle. The transport index of a radioactive material tells the degree of control needed during transportation. An A or W, the first column of the hazardous material table, means the material is only restricted when shipped by air or water. The intent of hazardous material regulations is to ensure safety, to contain the material, and to communicate the risk. Which of the following must drivers have in their position while transporting Class 1.1 or 1.3 explosives? Not both of the above. The written route plan is the only one that it needs, the written route plan. There are 3 lists that drivers, shippers, and carriers use to find out if the material is regulated as hazardous. Which one of these choices is not one of those 3 lists? The EPA Dangerous Materials List. Again, 100%. So just watch this video, go to CristCDL.com. That's CRIST CDL.com. Take these practice tests, then get a good night's rest, then come back and take the practice tests again, watch the video again. Then you should have no problem passing this test. You should go up there and ace it. You do have 8 hours to take the test, and the questions on the test are essentially almost verbatim to word for word as to what you're reading here. There are a couple questions that are not covered here, but you can skip up to 5 of those questions. I believe it is 5. I know everyone here that's watching this video is smart and capable of doing it, no doubt. So, like I said, just watch this video, maybe leave a comment if I could do something better, or if you need some questions answered. I will put a link to Crist CDL in the description. I'll also put a link to where you can register for your fingerprints and to take the test. And you do those all in one shot. You register at the MVA, get an appointment, go there, get your fingerprints, then take your test. And I do not suspect anybody will have a problem. But like I said, if you need any help or whatever, just reach out to me. I'm always around and always willing to help out and get somebody pointed in the right direction or any help that they may need. Don't feel like ever hesitant to come up and talk to me, because I love to talk. So, yeah, and I just want to throw this out there. If you see, like, if you want to leave a comment on any of my other videos or share them, I would greatly appreciate that. January 22nd, I'm talking with Dr. Abigail Baldwin, and we are going to be discussing traumatic brain injuries and concussions and the ramifications and the often undiagnosed trauma that goes along with head injuries. So check that out. I know that's big in the military. There's a lot of guys with concussions and traumatic brain injuries that end up going down a really dark road because and that's something that I know for for a fact, not being in the military, but the traumatic brain injury is a traumatic brain injury regardless if it's in an accident or if it's from from an explosion. The underlying effects are the same, and they can be absolutely devastating, especially since they are not visible. But the old cliche, not all wounds are visible. Well, that's true. Trust me, that's true. So this is always like a helping channel or a fun place. So always willing to listen, always love to hear your comments. So thanks. Good luck. I'm sure you'll do fine. And like I said, feel free to reach out and anything you need. Awesome. Catch you later.